Hiya, it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today we are going to be making a card using these gorgeous Distress Oxide ink pads and some Spellbinders dies. So we're going to be using faded jeans, broken china and cracked pistachio. So taking the faded jeans, I'm just blobbing this onto my mat, and then the same with the broken china, and it's just really randomly done. It doesn't seem to matter if it touches the ink pad with the other colours. You'll see here as I turn it that I've got a little bit of the ink on that edge there, so I just blob it on a clean piece of the mat and it's all cleaned off the ink pad. So then taking a sprayer with just water in it, I'm just misting over the top here, and I'm just keeping going until I kind of achieve what I think will be the look that I'm going for. So I wanted some finer pieces and some sort of bigger blobs of water to get a different look, but to a certain extent it's kind of guesswork, isn't it, really? You're just not going to know exactly how it's going to turn out, because that's the beauty of this. Now I just picked up the edges of my mat just to run the water around a bit, and now I've got my watercolor paper. I think this is almost an essential ingredient to doing this, is that you must use watercolor paper, because with all this water it would just wreck normal paper, and it gives you the opportunity to really layer up as well, because the watercolor paper can really take all of that. And you can see here I'm just letting it run on the paper as well, which is giving it a really nice effect. Now what I wanted was that kind of sort of murky kind of blended look in the background there, but I also wanted a little bit more of the white. So the beauty is, of course, with the watercolor paper and these inks, that you can do two things. You can do what I'm doing here, which gives you a softer look by just tapping it with the kitchen cloth until you get some bits taken off with that, so you get a little bit of a softer white background. Or you could dry it and then you could flick it with water and then put your towel over that area, and that would lift off the colour, and that would probably give a stronger look. But I was quite happy with that soft look. Now I want to add another layer, and that's the beauty of the Oxide inks, is that you can layer these up. So I've put down only the faded jeans and I've sprayed this with water, because now I've got my background, that sort of soft baseline colour. I want to add some more distinct elements of each colour, so we're going to do each one individually to achieve that, because otherwise they would potentially start to merge together again and get that more softer look, and all we're doing is layering up soft layers. But if you can see here, we've got quite strong colour going on there, in very distinct blobs, basically dots and stuff, and that was the look that I was going for, and I really wanted that sort of nice soft background so that it wasn't white, followed by those quite strong areas of colour. So each time I'm drying it off, because again, if you don't dry it, you can leave it to dry in the air, but if you don't dry it, you won't get the layering, you'll just get the blending together, and it will just eventually it will go kind of muddy. So you definitely want to make sure you dry each layer before you do the next one. So then I'm taking the broken china, I think that was called, and again just doing the same thing. I'm just using my finger here so that I'm really making sure that all the ink on the mat is mixed in with the water. I didn't want to go like crazy amount of water, because otherwise you dilute the ink too much, and I really wanted a stronger ink to achieve that very dotty effect that you saw I got with that first layer. So especially with these paler colours, if I put too much water, you would really dilute that colour and you would lose that beauty of those sort of dots. And you can really see that even over the top of the previous colour, you can see this colour, and that is to do with the fact that it's the Oxide inks. And then finally we're doing our cracked pistachio, my favourite of the three. And again, you can see I didn't put it in every single part of the mat, where I'm anticipating that I'm putting my card down, so I'm leaving some gaps as well and then I realised that I kind of just blended it with my finger and filled in those gaps, so I just went back with my tissue and just wiped some of that out. And the reason is so that when I place it down, we've just got a little bit more random areas, some areas that haven't got it in and some that have, and that just again just gives a really nice effect. And I just think that looks so pretty. I really like how it layers up. So then the final dry with my heat gun, and then we just pop that to one side while we move on to the next part of the card. So now we're taking my Creative Expressions cardstock. I've got Duck Egg Blue, Aqua, and Pastel Green. Really like Foundations card from Creative Expressions. And then we're taking my Cuttlebug. So my A plate, I've actually just got a magnetic plate from Cuttlebug, so I'm adding that in next. Then my B plate, and then you will add in your card and your die, and finishing off with another B plate. And that's the sandwich that you need if you're going to use the magnetic plate in the Cuttlebug. I have to say it's nice, but it's definitely nowhere near as strong as that in my Sizzix, but it was good for what I was doing here, and it meant I didn't have to tape. So here I'm using these Wildflower dies from Spellbinders. I will list the precise ones. I think it's something like Bluebells and Poppy and Aster and something. So I'll put all the details of everything that I've done on the blog post, and I will list them with all the links, etc. for you, so you'll know exactly what's being used. So what I'm doing here anyway is I'm cutting out a number of these beautiful little flowers in the cardstock. So this one is the Duck Egg Blue, and then I'm going to cut a different one in the green here and also the Aqua. I've shown you 3 there, but in the end I actually cut a few more out. Then using some of the leftover of the Duck Egg Blue here, I just took a strip and I've cut it in half here, so it didn't really matter, it doesn't need to be accurate, it's just enough so that I can put a slither of it down the edge of this I was going to say white, but it's almost a winter white card. It's, oh actually I know what I'm saying, it's winter white, it's actually the coconut white from Creative Expressions. So as you can see, it's not like a pure bright white, which I really like. It's just very slightly softer, but it's not cream, so it's really nice. And all I'm doing here is just putting a slither of the blue just down the edge, just to give it a little accent. I'm not, as you can see, I haven't worried about the width of it. I shall stick it down in due course, and I will cut it to the right size because that will be a lot simpler. Now I'm taking my lovely background that I've created, and I'm just marking up here where I want to cut it, because I didn't want to cut it exactly to the edges, because I wanted some of the pieces in the middle, because it was just nicer in the middle there, and I wanted to get rid of the edge pieces. So I've cut that to size, and I think that's come up really, really nicely. I'm now taking it and I'm just putting some tape on the back, and I'm going to stick it down to another piece of this Duck Egg Blue cardstock, and rather than sort of measuring it all out, I'm sticking it down so that it matches in on the 2 sides, so it's got the little border on 2 sides, and then all I need to do is cut 2 further sides, rather than having to mark it out and then hope that I'll stick it down centrally once I've cut it. So then just literally, as I say, taking this trimmer, and the great thing about this trimmer, it's a tonic one, and it's got a little wire that is down the center of where you trim, so it shows you exactly where it's going to cut, which I find really helpful when you're doing these mats and layers, particularly these finer ones. So all we're doing here is taking my Cosmic Shimmer and putting that on the back of this matte and layer that we created, and I'm using the Cosmic Shimmer because it's quite heavy, the watercolor cardstock, and then you've put another layer on there as well, so this just makes sure it really stays stuck. So now we're taking that matte that we made earlier with the little blue edges, and all I'm doing here is again using my Cosmic Shimmer, but I'm just placing that on the blue pieces, because there's no point placing it on the white in the middle. It's slightly lower, and all you'll do if you're not careful is actually end up making a little dent where you've actually tried to push that area and stick it down. So it's not going to go anywhere if you just stick the blue pieces, it's going to stay stuck, so there's no problem with that. And then we're just trimming off those edges, which is much simpler to do it this way than trying to measure it. And then decided to add a green piece to the inside. It added a bit of weight, but also I think it just looked really pretty. Next, taking the die cut pieces, I'm just arranging them into order, and then you can see the extra ones that I cut there, and then taking my glue gel, because I've got the little syringe there and it gives me the ability to have some depth but on some really fine elements. So I'm just taking the first one, very carefully just curving it, and then what I'm going to do is just take the syringe and just put a small little blob of the glue gel on the larger areas like the leaves and the petals here. This one is obviously the one that I'm putting down first, so this will be the one that has the least height of the elements on this side. Now obviously on this side of the card there's only these two, so it's just compared to the other one it's just going to be quite shallow. And then just carefully adding a little bit of the glue gel onto the stalk there as well, just so that I can hold the stalk at the end in position, and then using my tweezers, because it really does help you position them much better. And I've got the tweezers that hold closed until you squeeze them, which again is much simpler to do for stuff like this, because you know you're not going to accidentally drop it by releasing it. And then on the second one here I've added a little bit more height to my glue gel. I don't know if you can see that from here really, but it's very slight, but it's just to give a little bit more dimension and depth, and so that it will sit over the top of the one that's there already, and it will make it look like it really is, you know, further forward than the other one, and it just gives it a nice look. And what you can't really see here is that what I'm doing is on those flowers I'm pushing the base of the flower much further down than the top, so that the top is popping up much more, and again it's just giving that additional dimension. So then we're on to the other side, and we're just placing this first one. So as before, this one has a little less glue on the ones that are going to follow. And also with the glue gel, if you do have a little bit that pops out, you can use your tweezers or even a little fine pokey tool just to sort of swipe it back underneath, or just to position it in the right place. And you can see there I'm just pulling up that glue gel that was popping out by using the tweezers there to do that. And then our final one here, as before, has the most glue gel, which was lucky because it also has the biggest area. And then as before, I'm just popping that down to give a little bit more dimension. And then I decided to add a few strips of the background that we created on the inside as well. We had a few scraps left over, and I thought that would add a little bit of interest and continuity as well, I think. So then I've got these lovely peel off stickers. I don't really use those very often, but I just felt that it went really nicely with the card, and I just thought it added a nice sentiment to the inside. Originally I was placing it on the outside, but I just didn't like it, so I decided to pop it on the inside, and actually I was really pleased with how it turned out. And they're really simple to stick down, and if it does go wrong, if you're careful, you can usually peel it back up as well, which is handy. So then I thought we really needed a little zhuzh on the outside, so I went for some stickles, and I've got the two colours here. So I've got that nice blue stickles for the bluey flowers, and both colours were fine for that one colour stickles. And I've just done it on the actual flowers itself, and sort of almost done it heavy around the edge of the flower, and then just pulled it down to the centre of the flower to give it that kind of petally look, and then a little on the leaves, the same with the green as well. And I think that just adds a really nice effect, really sparkly obviously, but it's still quite subtle, it's not over the top, which I think is good because there's quite a lot going on with the background as well. However, I still felt it needed something, so I was looking and I started thinking, oh, I'll put some bigger gems on, and I felt that with the background it really didn't need it, so I went for these really tiny little crystal gems, and we've got 3 in that corner and then 1 in the other corners, and I felt that that was just enough to add a little something to it, but not too much. And coincidentally, it matches perfectly to my nails, so bonus. And I just think the background there is so pretty. I think we've really achieved something so nice there. And the beauty of it is that each time you do it, it's going to be completely different, and that's the really fun thing. So that is it done for today. I hope you have enjoyed making this card with me, and I hope that you like the finished look. I think that the outside and then with the inside together just makes a really effective card, and I hope you agree. Thank you so much for watching. Do remember to go on across to the blog post. If you're on YouTube, go to the paragraph below this video, click show more, and you will see the link to the blog post. On the blog post there will be lots of photos, which is always the most important bit, but also the information that I talked about with regards to exactly what the products were that were used, and the links, as I said, that go with those. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.